Recording. Hello, welcome to our Dream to Rise podcast. This is Cynthia Concordia, and it is now our episode 8 for season 2. And I am fortunate enough to have our guest speaker who is 58, who's a 58-year-old father of 4, and comes from it comes from a very violent and unstable background. His upbringing was very violent and belittling. He spent his entire childhood in fear. As he grew, the problems were obvious, but the reasons were unclear. So he spent the first half of his life destroying himself and hurting the people around him. The reason he is with us right now is because he was able to find a reason to make significant changes in himself. And that's the most important thing. And for him, it's a miracle that's coming in his life now, taking baby steps. And since then, he put processes in place to help him stay on a path that not allows him to help others who have grown up in a similar situations like him. Without further ado, I would just like to introduce to you our guest speaker now, Mr. Rick Hartley. Welcome, Rick. How are you?
Hey everybody. How are you doing? Hi. Thank you for having me, Cynthia. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And the main purpose why I have this podcast is really to share your stories from darkness into light, because most of us have experienced so much darkness in our lives that we are unable to move forward and experience that light, that there is truly light at the end of the tunnel. And your story might resonate some of our listeners, and they might be able to learn something from you, Rick. So, okay, let's go ahead now, Rick. So, as what I've asked you in the introduction, I would like to ask your permission if you could share your story, tell something about yourself and that brought you to where you are right now.
Sure. It's really interesting. I've said my story so many times, and I've written it down, and I've talked to people about it, and I hope it doesn't sound like I'm reading from a paper, because I've just said it so often. It's just at the end of the, at the end of the day, if anyone has grown up in a violent, unstable home, I just want to say, before I get into my story, there is a way out. There is light at the tunnel. You can have an abundant, happy, healthy life. You can. And I didn't start my transformation until I was 50 years old. So from the time I was born until the time I was 50, I was under the thumb of somebody very violent, and I allowed all of that manage my entire life. So I guess to start out, when I lived in an environment with a very, very angry father. He was very angry. My mother was very, very weak. I don't think she loved herself very much. I don't know a lot about my mom. She was very quiet. And my father and I have not had a relationship in over 20 years. My mother and I have not had a relationship in over 30 years. My mother, she seems only able to be around people that are harmful to her. And then she learns how to live in that bad environment. So when you're around nothing but fear and anger, and you're a child, it wires your brain to be in that flight or fight mode every day of your life. And if you're not taught how to have any confidence or self-assurance or love. As you get older, your brain lives in flight or fight. It doesn't have the ability to be calm or live outside of that environment. And so I lived in an environment of flight or fight. And everything that happened to me and everything in my life was somehow against me. Now, we all know in reality, most everything that happened in my life was not against me. It was me hurting myself because I didn't know how else to do it. And the worst part is you don't know you're hurting yourself. So since you don't know you're hurting yourself, you don't know what the problem is. So I grew up living in an environment where people would tell me that something was wrong, yet they would never tell me how to fix what was wrong. So I would say to them, I know that something is wrong. I know. I've lived it. I've heard it many times before you. How you could help me is tell me how to fix what's wrong. And no one could ever. I can tell you that people tried. I had some very caring people in my life that tried hard to make things better for me. And I never was able to, I was never able to, I guess, understand or absorb what they were trying to help with. It never made sense to me. And you add to the fact that because I grew up with anger, I was also very angry. I grew up hating myself without knowing I was hating myself. So where some people thought they were doing drugs just to fit in, I believed I was doing drugs just to fit in too. But then, when you're doing drugs every single day for a year, well, that's not fitting in. That's a problem, right? And you're not helping anybody. I had the ability to not go too far. For some reason, there's something that I teach a lot of today, and it's called NLP, and it's a neuro-linguistic programming. Now, I believe that I've had this ability in me since I was little, because when I was little, I promised myself that no matter what kind of drugs I used, no drug would ever make me addicted. I would never be addicted to anything. So other than being addicted to hating myself, I was never addicted to alcohol, drugs, even though I was on them for binges and horrible, and I would just do them. Thing about me though is when I was 25 years old, I decided I didn't want to smoke anymore.
Mhm.
So I had a pack of cigarettes, a carton in my refrigerator. I grabbed the carton of cigarettes out of the refrigerator. I took it to the dumpster outside, threw it in the dumpster, and I've never smoked again. I didn't care how many packs were in the carton. I just said, I'm done. Nothing is going to addict me. Nothing. When I was on my 18-month binge of methamphetamine, which is horrible. It does horrible things to you. I said, I'm done. And the day I said I'm done, I had a whole bunch of it still left. I grabbed it all, went to the toilet, flushed it all down the toilet, threw all my paraphernalia away, and I was done. And I've never looked back. And I've actually never used drugs again, none, other than a few. I drink a little bit of beer. I'm not a big drinker, but I drink a little beer, but I have not had any drugs in my life or my system for 9 years now. So again, if you have, there's a way to believe in yourself so much that you can decide that you're not going to let something else take over who you are. I wish I understood what that was, because if I had understood NLP back then I would have been able to use NLP for other parts of my life. But I didn't know. I just know that when I was a kid, I made a choice. I'm never going to get addicted to anything, period. I mean, I just believed it. There's no way that any drug or any alcohol or anything will addict me. Nothing. So my story has everything to do with understanding what you don't know. And once you understand what you don't know, you can put into place things that will be miraculous to your life. I believe that there's three things that you have to have in your life in order to truly make drastic changes. One is a reason why, which is, I think we're going to get into that later, but you have to have your reason why. You need to have some kind of support network to assist you in your recovery, whatever that recovery is. And then you have to have the desire, an absolute belief in yourself that you're capable of making these changes. And that's really hard until you do the first one. Once you make the first change, then I promise you, all the rest of the changes are easy. So it's the first one that's the hardest. I was lucky. I had found a therapist because I thought back then, this was almost 10 years ago now, it was in 2014, so just around 9 years ago. I thought my only big problem was anger, even all the way to 50 years old. I thought that my problem was my rage, my anger. I never thought any of the other things that was going on in my life was a problem. I never knew. But I also knew that I was highly educated. That's one of the things I never stopped doing. I never stopped learning. I always went to school. I learned more and more and more, but I never did anything with any of it. I never did anything. I just learned and never put anything into practice. So all I have is a bunch of knowledge that I've never implemented into my life or done anything with. So that's a bummer, right? All you have is a bunch of student debt, no way to pay it off. That's just horrible. And you don't want to be in that position. It's hard enough to pay off student debt when you do have a life. So I recommend try to figure it out before you do what I did. So that said, what I had to have my why first, though, right? So I was telling you a minute ago that my ability to figure out that I was capable came from a therapist, right? So I thought rage was my problem. So I was going to go, I knew I couldn't do it alone. So I was going to go find a therapist. I had experience with therapy and psychiatrists in the past, and it had never worked. What I didn't realize, though, was you need to first want to make changes. So if you don't know that you want to make changes, you don't know why you even need to make them. If you don't understand any of that, then making changes, it's fruitless. You're not going to. So the first thing I needed to do was find a therapist that was going to help me with my rage. And I knew I couldn't do it alone, but I knew I needed to fix it. And I was just determined that the rage has to go away. It has to go. So I had to interview 10 different therapists because of who I am to finally find a therapist that was going to not tell me what I wanted to hear, not make me feel good. I needed a therapist that was going to put me in my place, tell me what I had to hear, what was imperative for me to know. And I had to, and he made me prove to him that I was even going to be willing to go through it before he would even take me on as a client. So he was very committed at the same time that I was as well committed. So there was a little exercise I had to go through, and it was an exercise that I still talk to people about today, and I'll share it with you. So my therapist said to me, he said, "Do you really want to change?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to change." He said, "You're sure?" Why would I be? If I didn't want to change, why I'd be here? Well, then, if you want to change, I need you to prove something to me. Just give me 1 second, take a sip of water.
Okay.
He says, "How do you take a shower?" I'm like, "How do you take a shower? What kind of ridiculous question is that?" So I said, I get in the shower, I wash, I dry off. He's like, no, that's not what I mean. What is your absolute exact process? When you get in the shower, what do you do first? Do you wash your hair, wash your back, wash your feet? What do you do first? And then what do you do second? What do you do third? What's your process from beginning to end? So I told him my process. And he said, I want you to commit to doing the exact opposite. So if you wash your hair first and your face last, I want you to wash your face first and your hair last. And just do the exact opposite of your process. If you prove that you can do that to yourself and tell me honestly that you did it, then I will know that you truly want to change. So I was so committed that the first time I got in the shower after my session with him, I took my shower the next morning like normal, and I forgot to do it. I forgot to switch. I did it just like always. But as soon as I got out of the shower and started drying off, I remembered it clicked, but I knew I screwed it up. And I was so determined that I wanted to start changing that I said, I'm not going to wait till tomorrow's shower. I'm going to get back in the shower,
That's it. You
take
have to go
another
back.
shower right now and do it the right way.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I did. I got back in the shower. I started all over again and did my shower the reverse way, and then got back out and dried off. And then he said, when I was in the session with him, he said, you need to do that for a whole week and then let me know how it went. So I went, I did what he said. It worked. So long story short, yeah, that's like funny. It's already been a pretty long story. I'm sorry. But so long story short, I did what he said. I told him the story. He was really happy. Once I remembered that first time that I messed up and I put myself back in the shower, that never happened again. So that never happened again. The next morning after that, I did it right. The next morning after that, and I did it right the whole time. So I had to do it right for 2 weeks, and then I could just switch back to normal. But I proved to myself mostly, because that's really what matters. You prove to yourself that you want to make a change. And if you can make that change, you can make any change because you've convinced your mind to do something that is completely different than what you've always done. So believe me, it's not as easy as it sounds. You have to convince your mind to do it. And once you can convince your mind to do that, you literally can convince your mind to do anything. You have to just believe in it.
What do you think is the main reason why what do you think is the main reason why it's so hard to commit or to make that change?
Well, the first thing is people are hardwired to believe what they believe. So if you already believe that it is the way that it is, to convince yourself to believe something different it's almost impossible. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody who believes in a specific religion and you're trying to tell them that another religion is better or different in a way that is better, blah, blah, blah? Have you ever tried to do that? It's near impossible. People, when they believe whatever it is they believe, it is near impossible to get them to change that belief. But which is actually the key.
Religion is it's kind of different, no? But in terms of us believing in ourselves, because most of the time we focus on, it's scary. I don't want to take that leap of faith because I might fail, something like that. No? It won't work.
But okay, but why? But you have to ask yourself this question. But why is religion? Why is that easier? Do you understand why religion's easier?
What do you mean easier to convince other people?
No. It's easy to believe in your own religion, but it's hard to believe that you're worse. Do you know why? Why is it easy to believe in your religion?
We were raised in that we were raised in that religion from beginning till up to the curve. And that's how we believed that our parents we studied in a school that is, for example, Catholic. Then all the teachings
that's exactly right.
Were given to you.
So you started out. So same thing with what they call them limiting beliefs. So the things that you don't believe in yourself. When did you start believing in those things? Way early. And you've built them and built them and built them. So it's exactly the same difficulty level. Changing your religious belief, just like changing how you feel about yourself. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
You have to decide. Now, why would people not necessarily want to change their religious belief? Usually with your religious belief, it comes from good things. It comes from a good path. It comes from good teachings, from doing good positive things. So unless your religion is somehow doing something damaging to you, right? That's not something that you would want to change, but you understand exactly where it comes from and why you believe in it and why it's so hard to change.
Yeah.
Same thing, you understand where the belief that you're not worth it, or the belief that you can't make these changes, you're not strong enough, or you're not old enough, or you haven't have enough experience, blah blah blah, all these things. You believed in those things because you've been telling yourself those things for many years.
Yes, the paradigms, the society,
All the things.
that was the standards that they have instilled in us while we were still young, even while we
Right.
were still inside the womb.
Right.
It's already instilled.
It's
Now,
already instilled. The
yeah.
one thing that helped me, I guess, grasp the concept a little faster than other folks is the fact that I did it on my own when I was young with the addiction. I've been taught since I was little, and just like everybody, if you do drugs, you're going to get addicted. If you get addicted, you're going to be in the street, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it over and over and over again. Well, I said clearly, I don't care what drug it is. I use some of the worst, most addictive drugs that there are on the planet. And I have never, nor will I ever be addicted to any of them. And no matter how much of them I use, and no matter how long I use them, I never had to go to Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, or I never had to go to therapy to get rid of it. I never had to go to group circles. I just stopped.
How long have you been on drugs?
I was using methamphetamine for 18 months a day, every day, every single day for 18 months. I've been using cocaine on and off since I was 16 years old.
And what was the reason for you taking those drugs?
When I started using, peer pressure. I mean, I just did it with my friends. I just did it. It didn't matter. I mean, there was
just
no
to belong to a group, to your group of friends. Not because
I just was
not because
hanging
of
out
what
with people. You do what you hang out with, right? So you have to make decisions, right?
Not because
Right.
of
You
what
just have to make
happened to you,
decisions.
but not because of what happened to you at home. Because most
It's
of
very
the time,
possible.
that's a temporary solution for others. If you're angry and it calms you down, you take drugs, no? So I don't know if that's also the reason.
It's very common for people to what we call numb the pain.
Yeah.
Right? So you numb the pain by doing something. Some people, they're not even trying to numb the pain. They're trying to feel anything, right? So I need to feel something. So some people need to feel something because they feel nothing. Other people, they need to feel the pain. I mean, they need to stop feeling the pain. They need to numb the pain, right? So you've got different groups of people handle their trauma differently, right?
Yeah.
Again, when you decide to go inward so much that you decide not to feel anything because of what's happened, then some people will cut themselves, right? Some people will go cause trouble on purpose so that they can get beat up, right? Get into a fight. Some people will join a fight club, and so they'll do all these things. Do they think that they're doing these things because of their trauma? No, they think they're doing these things because of something very specific, right? I think I need to feel. So I cut myself. I feel. I'm human. They need to feel human. Because when you stop feeling human, you'll do almost anything to feel human. Almost anything. So what I'm here to say
something
is
new for me.
you, huh?
This is something new for me about feeling human, because I always hear other people say that for me to get rid of temporarily, numb myself, get rid of the problems because of so much pain and so many things. I'd rather try taking drugs because it gives me in a different, takes me to a different world wherein I'm happy, and I forget about what happened. So that's what I thought about taking drugs. But now I think about taking drugs, but now they need to feel it. And
Right. I think what you described is what most everybody will describe. But
yeah,
that's the surface, right? So when you really start learning and understanding the real reasons, you start to understand, especially if it's habitual, right? And if you just do it on the weekend with a friend and you don't cause any trouble, you know, nothing happens to you, well, then you're just doing it on the weekend with a friend, right? So you can come up with any reason in your head, or there is no reason. I just did it on the weekend. There are people in this world that are functioning addicts, which means they live their whole life on drugs and they're able to function and do well in their life. But you have to ask yourself, would they do better if they weren't? How much better could they do if they weren't? And they would tell you that they couldn't do better. So now you have, okay, now if you believe you couldn't do better, now we're getting to the problem, right? So the goal is to get to the real why it's happening. But you have to understand the most important thing of all. If you don't have a reason why you want to even find out, then you won't ever even find out.
of course, of course.
So you have to have the reason why
You have to
something has to
go
happen.
to
That's
the
what
root
some people
cause.
say, they get to rock bottom, right?
Mhm.
I got to rock bottom, and then I had to make changes.
Mhm. So when was
Um,
the time when you reached the rock bottom and you told yourself enough is enough? That's why I have to make that change.
I hear people say that, but a lot of people that I've met that have said that, once we start talking, we find out that it wasn't just hitting rock bottom. Something became important, or they would have
Yeah.
stayed at rock bottom.
Yes.
So what they need to
So
identify is
what was that important?
thing, right? What was that thing that
Uh-uh.
made them decide they can
Uh-uh.
no longer be at rock bottom,
Rock
right? Or
bottom.
why not stay at rock bottom? What's the point of, who cares, right? So the thing is,
Because it,
and they always skip it. And here's why,
yeah.
because people that don't really understand what trauma is like will tell them they had to hit rock bottom. So
Mhm.
then that becomes a new belief. And then
So
they never find out the real reason.
yes. So in your situation, what was that important thing that made you change?
Okay, so I will tell you, for me, it was something very specific. And I will also tell you, before I tell you what my reason was, my reason is what we cannot get hung up on what my reason was, right? Because everybody's reason will be different.
Yes.
Everybody's reason will be different.
Yes.
The key is knowing, seeking it out, seeking out your reason why. What makes you feel good? When imagine yourself not in the situation that you're in, and then what makes you feel good? Does it make you feel good to listen to a baby laugh? Does it make you feel good to want to help people?
Mhm.
What makes you feel good? What is the reason why? What is so compelling to you that it matters more to you than the behaviors that you're doing that are messing up your life? For
Exactly.
me,
Just like what happened with me, I was in an abusive relationship and my husband passed away and
it
I
was
was
your
feeling
children,
drained.
right?
And what was that trigger, that thing that triggered me to change was because I want to send my son to college. And that was the most important thing, or else he will stay stuck in that kind of life. Because after he graduated, he changed his life, may do really contributing to other children, educating other children, and that making a ripple effect. That was the reason why I had to stand up again, make the change, or else I will be stuck in my rock bottom. So I
You're
was
absolutely right.
wondering, I don't know, it's up to you if you'd like to share it or not, but that
Well, I will, but because it does, I mean, I will. I just want to make sure people don't get hung up. Well, I haven't found that. But it's important that you don't get hung up on that, because everybody's reason why is different. Yours is a very compelling. Your children are very compelling. People sometimes ask me, how come your brand new babies weren't your compelling reason? Well, there's no answer to that question. That's the thing. There's no answer to why didn't something else work? Why wasn't something else your reason why? There's no answer. And to beat yourself up about that is it's numbing. You'll never forgive yourself. So you have to not worry about that. The only thing that matters is finding the reason, whatever it is, and grab a hold of it and keep it tight. Once you have that one, you'll learn later on that once you become happy with the things you're doing in your life, now your reasons why will start unfolding themselves like crazy. There's many of them. They're all over the place because you're so happy about so many things that are going on. Now you're excited about what's going to be next, and your new reason why is this, and your new reason why is
and
that.
it's giving you so much meaning in life, more
Right.
purposeful life. Yes, and
So
that's it. And what it seems that your manifestation is really coming up now, because of the change which you have shared with us. Now, what is your goal for the next 12 months?
well, I'm going to answer your question first because you asked it and I said I would answer. So I'm going to answer. I met a woman, and I met a woman that mattered to me more than anything. And this woman is very important to me and in my heart. And so everything I did, and every reason why I did it, and every change I made, and every reason to make me better, I did because of her. Now, the ironic thing is, she's not in my life. We don't even talk. But it doesn't matter. She was my reason why, and I was going to do everything. But just like your reason why, my reason why wasn't about me. It was about being good for someone else.
Yes.
It was about doing something for someone else. So the number one thing that you have to remember when you're trying to find your why, you will always be more successful when your reason why is because of someone else. Someone else. We will almost never do it if it's about us. But our human condition is to do a lot of things for someone else.
Yes.
It's a condition. It's human. And so think about it along those lines as you're going through the process. Now, me, where I'm at now is it took me a long time because I didn't know so many of the things that we're talking about now. And it took me all this time to learn all the things that and I took the slow boat. I sat around in a chair all by myself for years, just trying to tell myself that I was worth it, right? That I had value, and giving myself lists of reasons why I did. I wasn't able to just change my state of mind. I wasn't able to just what matters is what matters is I did what I had to do with what I knew then. Now I can get through stuff pretty fast. I even have what I call the 90-second rule. When I find myself getting worked up or upset, I have 90 seconds to get out of that state and into a good positive state, because the negative state is not going to do me any good. It's not going to help me or my kids. So 90 seconds to get out of that, get into my new state.
Yes.
So what I'm doing now.
No, so your goals now.
Now, I am in the process of building a course. And my course is going to be focused on helping young men between 27 and 37 years old who have been either abused, neglected, or abandoned as children by their primary caregivers, by the people who are supposed to love them. So I want everybody to know that there is a way for people who have been traumatized and victimized by the people who are supposed to love them It is not abnormal for you to be having problems and having outbursts and traumatic events happen to you every day because of things that had happened to you before. I know that it is hard to put it together sometimes, and I know that it is hard to believe that you don't have the ability to control your own life. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yes. So when are you releasing this program? When are you?
There's not a date yet. I've got a
But
course,
within
I've
this
got a
year.
blog, but it is in the process. We're actually in the process of filming the videos now. The course design is out, the stories are done. It's now in the video creation process. So once it's all done, I'm thinking within the next couple of weeks is the
That's
goal.
great.
And then the blog will be launched and the website will be launched. It'll all be done. Until then, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, or if anybody wants to find out any additional information, or be put on a list of when things become available, you can get a hold of me by sending me an email at understanding my why. So understanding my, and then WHY, at gmail.com.
Okay.
Understandingmywhy@gmail.com is a way to get in touch with me. Pretty soon, everything will be launched under understandingmywhy.com. But that's not launched yet, so you will go to a no page. So don't go there yet.
Okay. So let me ask you, since you're still in the process of building the course or releasing it within 2 weeks, what do you
That's the
think
goal.
would be the major roadblock in achieving this?
I will be honest with you. I don't like to focus on what may be a major roadblock. What I do today in my life is I don't think about what horrible things might happen. Right now, at this minute, there is no roadblock. Right now, I'm in the process of doing the videos. Will I make mistakes and have to do them over again? Maybe. Will something come up that I have to tackle as it happens? Yeah. But I'd much rather think about everything that I have to do to get it done and to get it done on time, and then be prepared with whatever obstacles may present themselves. Right now, there are no obstacles. I am right on time. I started this process of developing a course only 6 weeks ago, and we're almost done. So as far as my coach is telling me, as far as I know, I'm doing well. So obstacles, I think, are things that it's a great question. I think it's also a great thing for people to realize you don't have to
Because
think about
sometimes we have
obstacles.
to reflect on this.
And simply be ready.
Yes, be ready. I agree. So before we end, Rick, I would just like to ask you, what small advice would you like to share with the listeners?
I think that the most important thing of all, it's two things. It's being able to, one way or another, put yourself into a positive state of mind. And while you're in that positive state of mind, change how you believe in something that is not helping you. That's not doing you any good. That is not serving your needs and your positive, abundant life. It's so important, because it is really hard. If you ever tried to do anything with your head down and your voice all low and your shoulders down and you're all sad, it's really hard to do anything in that state. It's really hard to help yourself believe in anything. Snap up. There's a reason why Superman stands in front of a mirror.
Yes.
Yeah, put your shoulders back. There's a reason why Superman stands in front of a mirror with his hands on his shoulders and his chest all out and his shoulders back and his head up. There's a reason. By doing that, stand in front of the mirror just for 5 minutes, just standing there. See what it does to your state of mind. It puts you in such a good mood. I'm not kidding. Do it and smile. Smile. Put your shoulders back. Make a move. Make a gesture. Do that. Make a sound.
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Put yourself in a good mood. Yeah. Do your best. Do something. If I'm not getting it, do
I
it. Put yourself in a really good, positive state of mind. Yeah.
I
And
agree with
then,
you because
yeah,
that's always the advice of Tony Robbins as well. It's from your posture that you are able to radiate that positive energy to other people. If
right.
you strengthen you have a straight back, chest out, and then when you show confidence through your posture, it gives you that feeling of, hey, I can do it. I can
I
do it.
can do it.
Yes.
And then believe.
Believe in yourself.
Even if you don't believe in yourself, right? I like to say to everybody, anytime you say these words, I can't do anything, right? I can't do whatever word you're going to use next. Before you stop talking, say yet. I can't do blah yet.
Uh-huh.
It's a 3-letter, teeny tiny 1-syllable word. All you have to do is add that to the end, and it will be amazing what happens to your brain if you believe in it.
Yes.
Believe it.
Yes.
I am not worth it yet. I promise you, you are
Great.
worth it.
Great tips to all our listeners. Oh, thank you so much, Rick, for this wonderful opportunity for you to share your insights, your stories, and I'm sure a lot of people will were inspired and empowered now to really move forward. And yes, don't focus on the negative, don't focus on the blockages, focus on what you can do. Okay.
Focus on what you can do. Focus on
Yes.
what matters. Focus on
What
what you want.
matters? What
Focus
you
on
can
what you want.
contribute to other people,
And
how you can make an impact.
always think of somebody else, especially when you're coming up with your why. Make
Yes.
somebody else your reason why. It
Yes.
will really have a much more huge impact
Yes.
than you. I just want to have money. Well, the question to that is, why do you want to have money? You see what I'm saying? So you have to have a reason why for
Yes.
everything.
Exactly. So thank you so much to our listeners. And again, thank you so much, Rick. And
Thank you for having me.
thank you. And it's always a pleasure to have great guests here in our Dream to Rise podcast. So just watch out for the next episode. Okay. Bye.